Welcome to the 6-5 podcast. I'm Daniel Newman, your host today, joined by my always esteemed co-host and colleague and partner in the 6-5 media, Pat Moorhead. Pat, good morning. And by the way, everybody, it is Monday morning, and we are exasperated, excited, thrilled. God, there's all kinds of emotions going on because, geez, we spent all Sunday night working because there's some big news, and we're excited to share it with all you. Pat, good morning.
Good morning, Daniel. You know, I can't imagine being in any other industry other than tech. I've done it for 30 years. I even worked, I would say, semi-tech when I was in college, and it's exhilarating. You know, normally we do these podcasts on Friday, but I'm pretty sure you and I were working on phone calls until very, very late. But like you said, yeah, we were Sunday mid-afternoon. Chomping away, doing our thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said exhilarated and exasperated all at the same time. I am sucking air right now because things are moving so quickly, but it's really exciting. And there's a couple of really big pieces of news. And, you know, the 6-5 for everybody out there, remember 6 handpicked topics, 5 minutes each, deep analysis. We try to stay away from news that you can get everywhere and anywhere. And we really try to give you the between the lines. What is it about this news? What is it about this event, this moment that is worth knowing that you're not going to read in your everyday media? We love the everyday media. We talk to them all the time, but we want to go an inch, a foot, a yard, a mile deeper. And we hope that you really enjoy that. Now, also, quick disclaimer up front, the 6-5 podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. And so while we will be talking about publicly traded companies, we may even be talking about big news that will be impacting the stock market today and in the next few days, weeks ahead. Please do not take anything we share as investment advice. Don't buy any stocks because of anything we say or suggest here in this particular podcast. Pat, I want to jump right in for 2 reasons. One is because big news, really excited to talk about it. And 2, we always take too long. So we started with 6-5, 30 minutes, and somehow we've crept towards 40 minutes. And it's because of stuff like this. I just keep talking and I don't get us into the news. But let's analyze this, Pat. NVIDIA announced last night $40 billion acquisition of Arm Holding. This is huge news. I got briefed early, but you got the upfront CEO conversation with both Arm and NVIDIA CEO, and you were able to break this on Forbes. So I'll let you take this one, and I'll chime in on the back end.
Yeah, Daniel, thank you. Yeah, it was a real honor to have both Simon and Jensen on the line. You could tell that they had been working the last 2 weeks. Everybody seemed exhausted, but excited at the same time. And I know you know what that's like because you and I get that way as well. The difference is you and I aren't worth $1 billion. Big difference. So net $40 billion deal, cash and stock. NVIDIA buys Arm, has to go through regulations, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Instantly accretive to the stock as well. The headquarters will stay in Cambridge, and NVIDIA committed to making big investments in Cambridge. I think to keep the peace with the UK and politics, even though I've seen some pretty nasty articles coming out of the UK, including the one of the Arm founders there. But net, this is huge. And not only is it the biggest semiconductor deal ever, dollar-wise, but it's I think the biggest impact-wise. And you just need to look at the markets that NVIDIA does not actively participate in. Look at the people who are participating in those markets and think if you get a world-class IP and design team, how you could participate in that. And even in markets where I wouldn't even necessarily expect some super NVIDIA chip like in smartphones, we might see intellectual property from NVIDIA, let's say their GPU or their NPU in things like tablets, a step up smartphone, a mega smartphone for gaming with the NVIDIA brand. Think about Intel and how much revenue the company drives from data center CPUs. Now, Intel is very diversified in the data center. They do storage, they do networking. In fact, they do memory. But their bread and butter is compute. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years puts NVIDIA and Intel on a collision course. Think about Windows on ARM. AMD and Intel have 100% silicon market share in PCs, so notebooks and desktops. It's going to be a little bit less than that when Apple comes out because they're driving their own. But imagine an NVIDIA-based processor, very similar to Qualcomm's ACPC. It's ARM-based. It has NVIDIA GPU capabilities in it. I think this is something that people fully haven't grokked yet, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, Daniel, we're going to be talking about this so many times on the 6.5. As for independence, yeah, if I were NVIDIA's competitors and I'm an ARM licensee, I am going to be afraid, right? I'm going to be afraid because NVIDIA is an absolute terror of a competitor, right? They go into markets and they just go in and dominate. And I certainly would have thought in data center GPUs, we would have seen a whole lot more competition. There's 25 NPU startups for the data center, and I don't know if any of them have mass deployments at this point. FPGAs from Xilinx and Intel seem to be the only alternative to the NVIDIA data center juggernaut for AI. Now, I want to give AMD their due, right? In data center for gaming and data center for VDI, AMD's done pretty well. But all in all, I'm psyched, Daniel. If you remember the last 6.5, you reinforced that silicon is eating the world. I think this is the next step. And notice Jensen and Simon talked a lot about software in this. And I can't help but to think this is the whole, we know what software can be done on the GPU side. We've seen it. That play's been run. But how about the acceleration of ARM CPU software into different elements? I feel like there was a hint there. There was a ton of cash, and now we've got a lot more competition.
Yeah, Pat, it was very exciting. From the time this was first speculated, I said this would happen. I just need to proclaim that because a lot of people thought I was crazy.
No. You and I were like the two lone rangers who were not like, oh, this is a bad idea. A lot of other analysts I saw, it was all about tactics. But you are like, big picture, right? You got it. Sorry.
Well, Jensen's, he's wild and he's ambitious. And I just think he's not afraid to take risks and take chances. You said a few things, and Pat, you got into the tech pretty well. First of all, very complementary businesses. As much as some of the licensees, some competitors probably aren't going to want to hear that. I don't see a lot of opportunity for regulatory to really stop this thing. It's not like they really grew market share. There's not an anti-competitive angle here. Will licensees and competitors of NVIDIA have to go to NVIDIA for tech? Well, that's a lot like Qualcomm, though. I mean, what Qualcomm's been able to accomplish with its licensing business in some cases, and it's been successful. And it was also ruled as a very good business model recently when the FTC overturned it. Furthermore, again, you're adding value to a CPU layer, NVIDIA's capabilities, NVIDIA's chip making operations to a licensing and to an intellectual property operation to enhance the CPU, to enhance that part of the data center, the way NVIDIA has enhanced the GPU. So those are a few things. I mean, like you said, does it make them a juggernaut? Well, all of a sudden, things like Edge AI, now you've got that platform for NVIDIA to become a big time player in something like Edge AI. And that's got to be intimidating to the market. But look, it was a bold move, and bold moves elicit significant responses. And I think the market is going to be is going to be looking and thinking and reflecting for a while. And over the next 12 months, while this thing's getting approved, people are going to be worried. But I do think as a whole, it was a great move for NVIDIA. It's going to push this company next to that $500 billion valuation. And I think I speculate that NVIDIA's, Jensen's ambition is to take it to $1 trillion. I think, and this is a big move in that direction. So, but we'll see how it goes, Pat. Great analysis. And of course, like I said, this was humongous news. In less humongous but very interesting news, let's hit our second topic, Pat. Oracle put their earnings out this last quarter, and I'll kick this one off. The company, which by the way, its shares are rising for another reason, and we'll talk about that later in the show, but it actually saw some significant growth. Now, during this pandemic, there's been a couple of things I want to talk about here, but there's been kind of two types of companies. There's been these companies seeing explosive growth, and NVIDIA was one of them. So chip makers have seen explosive growth, and pure cloud and SaaS players have seen explosive growth. Where growth has been more challenging have been legacy on-prem infrastructure companies, OEMs, so the IBMs, the Dells, the HPEs, the Oracle. They've improved with each passing quarter, but the ability to see big growth and annualized growth has been a problem for these companies. Oracle had a big moment this quarter because it went from, yes, it was hitting its revised earnings marks over the last couple of quarters, but it wasn't seeing annualized growth. This quarter, it was able to turn that corner on both the earnings side and the revenue side. And that was attributed towards, the company basically growing its SaaS business significantly, in its growth in the cloud business. And that's where it's been coming from. The cloud growth overall, still small, only 2% annualized, but it did win these big deals, 8x8 and Zoom and a number of others that have essentially had huge usage upticks, has pushed the overall Oracle number up and has driven the company into positive territory. Also, what was pretty impressive in this quarter was the new customers. OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, which has kind of been at times written off as the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th cloud player, is starting. I mentioned Zoom and I mentioned 8x8, but they were able to announce a big win with McDonald's, a huge company that chose this quarter. Iron Mountain, a big player in data center. You're seeing Albertsons, the pharmaceutical the store retailer. Jacob, Exactly, all choosing Oracle. And again, these aren't all massive names, but they're big names and they're big wins. And the company is able to basically put its hand up at the end of a quarter and say, here's a list of 10 really big companies that are choosing to run some part of their cloud or all of their cloud on Oracle. So I would say, Pat, my two big takeaways from this: one, annualized growth, which is something that the market has to see. And all those other OEMs I named, they're in the same boat. They need to stop talking about beating a revised, softened guidance and start beating their annual growth and getting back to that trajectory. And then the second thing is the big wins, big named customer wins. That's what every player below Amazon and Azure, so AWS and Azure, needs to be talking about. What big customers are choosing them? Because otherwise, they're just tiny little numbers in the comparison to the $10 billion a quarter that AWS is breaking out. And we'll talk about TikTok, but not right now because we're going to want to talk about that later. Pat, any adds to the Oracle numbers?
Yeah, those are great insights, Daniel. The thing that stood out for me, and while I wish Oracle would carve out, cloud and non-cloud, because I cut it up into on-prem and off-prem. Both those could be cloud. Both those could be traditional. Right? We just don't know. But I think over time, Daniel, we're with the hybrid cloud, I think we're going to lose that. The market's going to lose that sensitivity to what is cloud? Oracle's Customer at Cloud, to me, is one of the most compelling on-prem cloud solutions out there. Essentially, they took V2 in the big cloud, the public cloud, copy and pasted everything. They put a chain link fence around it and a desk for people and offices, and that's your cloud. And that's exactly what enterprises want. To your point on the customer wins, I did like to see the word cloud, right? And whether it was OCI, HCM cloud, ERP and procurement cloud, HCM cloud, Jacobs, ERP and ECM Cloud, James Avery, Xdata Cloud Act customer, right? A lot of big wins. I think until they get into the double digits, right, they're not going to be looked at as a growth play, even though, right, we saw Fusion ERP and NetSuite ERP, really good double digits. And I don't know, Daniel, that can't be good for SAP, can it? That double digit growth there, or am I looking too hard at it?
Well, I think that's a consideration as companies are doing the cloud migration, Pat. But I think we also have to look at pie, size of pie. And that's data I don't have in front of me right now, but are they growing double digits because the pie is getting larger and companies are making bigger investments, or are they getting double digits because they're taking market share from companies who are in their cloud migration? Oracle has done a very good job compared to some other players, maybe some that you've mentioned, maybe even some others, in terms of giving a path for upgrade from their prem to SaaS offerings, big investments in the acquisition of NetSuite, and bringing in Fusion and expanding, and of course their own Oracle CRM in the cloud, Oracle ERP in the cloud. So yeah, you make some really good points, Pat. And I really like your point about the customer app cloud, because I do think we are going to start to see some blurred lines between where cloud starts and where cloud ends. There's an edge cloud. There's a cloud on-prem. I mean, if you're because the data center in many ways has always been a cloud. It's just then how do you make it, how do you connect it back? You're getting different offerings, Azure, or whether it's, Azure, whether it's Arc and it's, AWS Outposts, and it's, now you have cloud at customer, and you've got IBM, of course, is doing their thing with Red Hat. But all these different companies have offerings that hybrid. And then, of course, all the OEMs have a play now. VMware has a play now. Everybody has a play now. And so cloud is really everything. And somehow it went from being only this public cloud where about 20-25% of our workloads sit to 100% of them sit across this hybrid environment that you pointed out. So great ads, Pat. Solid from Oracle. You make a good point too about double digit. I want to see double digit growth, and I want to see breakouts. I've always said I want to see breakouts in reporting. In fairness, though, AWS has been the only company that's been really, really transparent in their infrastructure as a service growth number. Well,
they happen to have like 50% market share in that.
I know. I'm just saying. So nobody's quite been that overt, and it would be really great to see it. But for now, I think there's a reason, because it's kind of like you said, with cloud being so diverse in what it can mean. Why would you want to show a smaller growth number in order to show greater transparency?
I want everybody to do IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? That would, and that's why Microsoft leans into PaaS and SaaS, and that's their cloud number. And they don't tell you what IaaS is. Google too, right? Because they have G Suite like Microsoft does. And, then we've got Salesforce that's pretty much, I know they've got 2 on-prem acquisitions, but probably 95% SaaS. I want everybody to do it. I think if AWS did it right, that SaaS number would be kind of small.
Nobody would actually fully benefit except us, because then we'd have so much more information to work off of. But I like that. I'm selfish that way. So, gimme. Speaking of IBM and Red Hat, let's jump to our third topic. Yeah. This one will be pretty quick, but it was a piece of news that came out late last week that essentially Red Hat and IBM worked together to finally announce, an important thing, a general availability of its Red Hat Marketplace. This is a one-stop shop. It's about finding, trying, buying, deploying, managing enterprise applications. And to your point, Pat, across that hybrid IT infrastructure. Now, the marketplace concept is not new. I want to be very upfront about that. AWS has had this for a long time. Other cloud players have been doing various different takes on marketplaces as well. I want to dive into why I think this is most unique and interesting. For a while, when I've talked about IBM Cloud and the acquisition of Red Hat, I've said IBM Cloud will likely struggle with the exception of certain verticals like financials, where it's extremely powerful in terms of gaining significant market share as IBM Cloud itself. But Red Hat, the $34 billion acquisition that IBM made, was a very wise move. The price can be debated, but what Red Hat did with its OpenShift, built on Kubernetes and open source containers, essentially gave IBM a window into every cloud deployment on the planet. Because as OpenShift continues to gain popularity as an open source platform for deploying workloads in the cloud, companies that may use none of IBM Cloud, nothing from IBM, use Red Hat. They deploy their workloads on Azure, deploy workloads on GCP, deploy workloads on Oracle, deploy workloads at AWS, of course. And this is what's interesting, is creating this marketplace with trusted, validated software solutions for everything from edge to AI to traditional cloud workloads, and making them simpler to test, working with trusted ISVs that build software that is validated and works. Pat, I think this was the big win here.
Yeah.
The fact is IBM will continue to see double-digit growth through Red Hat, because as all the clouds grow and Red Hat continues to be a pillar of how companies deploy those workloads, this is why this marketplace is important. It's streamlining the ability for Red Hat to play its part in the cloud.
I appreciate you pointing out the lack of novelty here, but again, Red Hat needs this, and what I really appreciate is too that cross-platform element that you brought up, because this isn't just for IBM Cloud. This is for multi-cloud, and I think that's important. And it's for multi-cloud, and it's also for hybrid cloud. So they needed to do this, moving into containers with OpenShift. It's good stuff. And yeah, Red Hat is double-digit growth for IBM. That's why they bought these guys. One of the big reasons.
Yeah, it was a big price tag. And Pat, like I said, I didn't leave you much meat on that bone, but I figured this one would be quick, get us back on our schedule. So yeah, no problem. Well, and trust me, I think this next topic, you're going to be talking more than I am. Now, I do want to say that I was the recipient of a new Surface Duo about a year after you got one. And I was excited to get it. And the thing is super cool. But you've had time to play with it. It's now, all the embargoes have been lifted. So you can count on every generic media company putting out a generic review, Pat. But I would love the analysis from the enterprise side, because, you as a device guy with an enterprise focus, you're playing with the Galaxy Folds, you're playing with all the new phones and all the new devices. And, Microsoft's Surface laptops have gotten some momentum, but are they a phone company? Are they going to make these small profile devices, and are they going to work, and are people going to buy them? So I'll let you jump in here.
I appreciate you up-leveling the conversation. Now I'm going to get in my chronic here. Hang on one second here. Let me look at my notes.
Covering the logo, dude. Don't cover the logo.
Oh, yeah. Did I just?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I
there
just
you go.
this. No, I didn't have it a year before. I had it for a couple months. And here's the thing. If you are a mobile road warrior and your primary thing that you want out of a phone is to be productive and get SHIT done, this is your phone. Now, the ability to test that during COVID is tough, okay? But where it really hit me is when I took a trip on a real airplane in a real airport with my N95 mask on, and I literally felt like I was King Kong knocking everything down. Off the charts productivity with 2 displays. Do not confuse this with the Galaxy Fold. It is very different. I made that mistake, but after a little bit of practice, this does take practice. I am super impressed and feel like I can get a ton done. And I know that when I get back on that airplane 40 weeks a year, I'm going to be bringing this thing as my primary or my secondary device. I move between a lot of phones. It is incredibly thin. I mean, when you open this thing up, it is ridiculously thin, and that answers a lot of question about the camera. Oh my gosh, it has a single lens and it doesn't stick out. That was to keep it thin. But again, if work is your primary and things like taking pictures are your secondary, that shouldn't matter. The second thing is incredible display quality. What Microsoft worked really hard at, and you think this would be easy, is to have the same characteristics on both displays. Apparently, that's really hard. So they did pixel matching to be able to have a very similar experience. When you span an application, it actually looks the same on both displays and also is synced. So you don't get the jiggle that you get with a lot of foldables out there. Battery life is crazy. I don't know exactly how they did that, because there's no way you fit a lot of battery in this. And most of the time it's going to be in dual display. So theoretically, it's draining twice the power that a single display would. You don't want to run with this phone. It's kind of big. Here's a small little SC, which you might want to run with. And here is this. So it's not dramatically larger. And I wish I had an iPhone 11 up here, because then it would look different. But you can put it in the back. Thank you, Daniel. Here you go. As you can plainly see.
As you can plainly see from our unequaled sizing.
Yeah, you're probably not going to want to run with this, but it's not so huge that you're not going to be able to fit it in your pocket. So net, I agree this is a new category. I don't know what that category is called, but it's not in the same category as Fold, which is awesome for other reasons, like entertainment and taking pictures. I have the Fold 2, and it is an incredible phone as well. And Daniel, I know everybody is not going to understand this completely because I'm such a 5G fan. Right now, I didn't miss the lack of 5G. I might shortly, but in Austin, our 5G sucks. It's low band, and people are thinking about turning on mid-band, and AT&T has 5G for businesses, but it's like on 3 blocks downtown. But you might miss it if you're looking at this for a 3-year phone. You should try to find this device if productivity and work are number one.
I really see, from my limited use, I've had mine for about a week and I've been playing around with it. I see it as a executive's peripheral device along with probably a traditional smartphone.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a world where people are carrying 2, 3, 4 devices. You know what this replaces in my mind is, the iPad, the tablet device that you carried as an intermediary. This thing is more useful, more productive because it can be connected all the time as a phone, and work as a phone. I like it better than you're not going to hold the whole tablet to your ear. I like the 2 screens because I've said so often, running multiple applications, being able to cross, you're looking at a spreadsheet or a document, being able to jump between 2 things concurrently. You're trying to send an email. I said, you're trying to send an email and you're trying to refer to something on your phone. That's really hard. You're closing out, opening up, closing out, opening up. With this thing, you can have the doc you're referencing on one screen and you have the email, going on the other screen, and you're able to collaborate between the 2 docs. Stuff like that is super powerful, very important. The profile is nice and thin. It is a little wide. I'm a big guy, so my shorts, pants, big, no problems. If I was a, slight framed person, and you wore skinny jeans, this thing's going to be kind of big, but so is an iPhone, a Note 20, a Fold, or anything else. Very cool though, Pat, very cool device. Excited to kind of see and hear how this gets used on a prolonged basis in the market. And I love your point about travel. I really need to get on the road and see how everything works when I'm not at my desk all the time, because it's like I do nothing on my mobile device that I can do. Like if I see an email that's interesting to me and I'm sitting at home, I don't respond on my phone. I run into my office because I can crank out a book in the same time that I can write like 3 lines on my phone. So, how is this going to help me as I'm working? All right, a lot more to unpack there, Pat. Got to keep moving because, again, I'm talking too much, but everybody out there, we appreciate you listening. Let's talk about Amazon again, Pat. We've talked about AWS a bit during this show, but Amazon has been kind of an ongoing subject in our lives, something you and I have been paying a lot of attention to amidst the pandemic, has been tech and the industry's contributions to things like ESG, to future of work, to bringing jobs. And Amazon's unique because Amazon's not just, they're a juggernaut. They're not just a cloud company. They are the world's largest e-commerce company. They're also a device company. They're doing a whole bunch of things. And they're also a job creating company right now. Last week, big announcement, career day, and the addition of thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs, as well as coaching. And from what I hear, more jobs are in the works, Pat. I'll let you run first with this one. And we both covered it, so I'll chime in on the back.
Yeah, I'll just netting this out. Amazon is going to hire 33,000 corporate and tech roles, and they're having basically a job fair. It's interesting, harken back to the Great Depression where you saw lines of people waiting in bread and food lines. I'm imagining lines to Amazon's job fair. And this is a big deal. Daniel, I grew up in the Cleveland area during the 70s where people were getting laid off left and right, and the area never recovered. And what happens is it transforms families for the negative. And I'm a big believer, and maybe this is I'm a Midwesterner, that work matters. The area is one of the most opioid addicted, and I can translate that all the way back to these job losses in the 70s. And so jobs are personal to me, and the notion of companies getting criticized for jobs kind of boils my blood. So seeing a company like Amazon, after hiring 175,000 workers, hiring an additional 33,000 really warms my heart. And these are good jobs. These are tech jobs. And I'm just super excited about things like this that may go kind of unspoken.
Yeah, Pat, it's a great point. And deep down, it's not just about the jobs it's creating. It's also, investing in people. It's got this part of this career day that it announced was a big thing about offering career coaching and counseling. It's about improving and upskilling workers. Amazon's got a big investment going in its upskilling for 2025 initiative, where it's trying to prepare workers that are likely to be displaced by AI and automation and continued globalization of business and supply chain to have roles of value, not just jobs, but careers. Yeah. And so I think that's a positive thing. And of course, any company of this size is going to come into scrutiny, sometimes deserved, oftentimes not. People love kicking successful people. And Amazon's very successful. And that's part of the reason it's constantly a victim of of batterings from a lot of perspectives. But during this pandemic, not one company has created more jobs. And Pat, by the way, breaking today, and I see it all over the news, and I haven't had a chance to read this yet, but Amazon just announced this morning a plan to hire another 100,000 workers to meet surge in lockdown shopping. So beyond the 30,000 last week, 35,000 last week, the company literally this morning announced another 100,000 jobs. And by the way, Bezos has no interest in helping the current our current executive administration in office in helping its jobs reports. This is something the company needs because Amazon has become the beacon of the supply chain to consumers and businesses around the world. 100,000, Pat, 100,000 more jobs. Wow. That's great news. And actually, like I said, that just broke. I see stories all over MarketWatch, NBC, Chicago Trib, Atlanta Business, all popped just this morning while you and I were busy trying to get uploaded on other news so that we could talk to the media around NVIDIA and Oracle. So as I said, Pat, I promise we come full circle. Here we are. So apparently, and again, there has not been confirmation yet from Oracle. So I'm waiting, and maybe that'll be coming today. But there's tons of media speculation, and I even heard Secretary Mnuchin on CNBC this morning talking about this, that Oracle is going to be the winner of this Tik Tok in the U.S. Acquisition of its U.S. operations or bid. Now, again, there's some caveats here, and I'll explain that in a minute. But Microsoft apparently had its bid rejected, which was interesting because I really did think, and I'll be straightforward, that Microsoft was a more natural fit to acquire TikTok based on, some of its social media, some of its consumer facing businesses. It just seems to have a little more of a consumer connected. Oracle as a company, you're hearing us talk more and more about it here on the 6.5 and in general, Pat. A little bit of a monolith that's really trying to evolve to a cool, forward-thinking cloud company, but that's early days for Oracle. Has really nothing in the consumer-facing part of its business. It has 400,000 customers, but Oracle winning what is now being deemed as a potential minority stake with a trusted tech partner validation of some type. So it sounds like there's been concessions made, Pat, by the way, on both sides, where the company is not going to acquire all of its operations here in the US, but essentially is going to take responsibility for the security and safety of the data. Now, this is where it starts to become very interesting for Oracle, Pat, is that Oracle is very proud of its cloud. It's very proud of its Gen 2 cloud. It's very proud of its ability to manage and secure data. And so what I think is going on here is Oracle sees a great opportunity to put its flag in the ground as the cloud provider, the infrastructure provider to a massive social brand, consumer facing, that's going to make the company kind of cool. I'm not a big TikTok fan, but I'm old. It's going to make it relevant to younger people. And the company is going to be able to say, hey, look, we took a product that was seen as largely compromised. We took the code, we deployed it in our cloud. We made it safe. We made the data secure. We offered a level of privacy that could not be offered from ByteDance, and Oracle did this. I think that's the story. I thought at first it might be more about the data and being able to, apply it to its applications and SaaS to be able to give better CDP. And there's probably some of that, Pat. But what I really think it comes down to is Oracle being able to beat its chest and say, our cloud took one of the worst apps as it pertains to security and privacy, and we've made it safe here in the United States. Oracle of all the companies that did that. I can't see another side of the story, Pat, but this is all speculation at this point. Haven't heard what drove the deal. You had a great tweet about this, got a lot of engagement. What do you think?
This has always made sense to me, and this was something that Bloomberg was floating, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, this is not that hard of a deal if it's true to figure out, right? And, cloud companies, service providers like TikTok need somebody to host their cloud. And this one is in particular is unique in that it's a Chinese-based company, and the U.S. wants assurances that data, the privacy of U.S. consumers, will be protected. And I didn't think that Microsoft was ultimately the best choice for that, because I was afraid it would take Microsoft off its productivity and business first. I was concerned that Microsoft would get confused and try to be two different companies. So I'm actually glad that Microsoft isn't the winner here, and their deal was different, right? They wanted to do things with the data and monetize that data. This one makes perfect sense to me. It's an arm's length relationship. It's a service provider relationship for cloud, but it's also a data management deal. And TikTok needed a trusted US partner. Oracle knows how to protect and manage data. Oracle needed cloud scale, and TikTok provides mega scale. TikTok is as large in daily active users as Twitter, but 100% of TikTok's content are videos and has to be low latency. So I would posit that the requirements are much greater than TikTok, than Twitter, because of that. So it's going to take a whole lot more of effort. And you add that to the Oracle Zoom scale, I think you're going to get Oracle that ends up losing their disadvantage of being a lower traffic provider. And that's important because it impacts how much you pay for commodities, okay? Processors, networking, storage, all of those commodities that go into building data centers, you have to be at a certain tier to get the best discounts. So even though Oracle is not a cost play, they never have been and they never will, you do have to have a certain level of scale so costs don't get out of hand.
Absolutely, Pat. Great adds to my tremendous perspective already. No, I'm just kidding. I like what you had to say about Microsoft, though. That adds some flair. I didn't necessarily see the downsides of it, but I can see in all cases how this could be a distraction. Hopefully for Oracle, it's a proof of concept. Going back to what I said about the earnings, this is a win for Oracle to be able to say, Zoom and TikTok, look at the volume of video, low latency video that we are basically running in our cloud securely. Suddenly the story becomes very compelling. Is Oracle the secure cloud, quote unquote? Is it? I mean, I don't know, but it becomes architecture that the company can draft off of. And Pat, it'll be something you and I will be talking about for the ages. So boom, what a week. Big news breaking on a Monday, keeping you and me busy, having to jump on and drink a lot of coffee, dad fuel. It's what my cup says. But Pat, really got to say, great show, great stuff. There may be another show yet to come this week. This week feels like it could be a biggie. But for everyone out there, we've once again tried to break our record for longest episode of the 6-5. But there was just too much here, too much to unpack. We'll promise we'll work our way back into the 30s of minutes, but please hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned with us. We've got some great interviews and insider editions coming up here on the 6-5, where we bring CEOs and CXOs of some of the world's largest companies, especially in tech, which is where we focus. So hit that subscribe, share this with our friends, hit us up on Twitter, tell us what you think. For now, we got to go. But for the 6-5, for Pat, for Dan, we've had a lot of fun. We'll see you later. Bye now.